To let you know that the storm raged for 2 full days and nights. So these people were trapped on board of this disintegrating ship at night and then during the day with this horrendous storm going on. It's hard to even envision that for 2 days, people, children, women, men. Okay, so you could kind of, are you actually sort of seeing that? Or
Yeah,
are you...
I feel nauseous because I feel like I'm being rocked back and forth. And like I can feel the fog going. I can smell, the fog when it's really thick here. And
Yeah.
I can smell it. I from the very beginning, I've heard people screaming before you even started it. I can hear people and
into the rocks. I mean, the feeling of desolation of just being abandoned must have been horrendous. Like
yeah.
There's no hope left at all, as you say. There's going to be no hope. You're going down.
Well, as we're talking, I see a little blonde girl in a velvet jacket, blue jacket, white collar. She's got a little doll in her hand, and all I see is the doll floating.
Oh, you're kidding.
Nope.
Wow.
Welcome to Seeing Dead People, the slow burn storytelling podcast where our host, Nicola, challenges her psychic friend Darcy to communicate with the dead and unravel historical ghost stories, unsolved true crime mysteries, and all things paranormal. If you want to be spooked, amazed, and entertained, stick around for an astonishing, deep dive convo with the spirits on the other side. And now, Radio Sydney presents Seeing Dead People, Episode 52, Ghost Ship Terror. The wreck of the SS Valencia haunts the Pacific Ocean.
Hello, Darcy. Good evening. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm excellent, thank you. It's it's another lovely evening to be talking to you. I'm going to tell you that this is episode 52, which is amazing. We're just keep rolling along. This episode boasts all the elements that we at Seeing Dead People love. It has tragedy, unsolved mystery, and the paranormal. Ooh. So first I'm going to ask you, have you any inklings before we go any further?
I'd like to think it's in Canada for a change.
You are right. Okay. I'll give you a bit more about the timing, the location, the atmosphere after you see our first photograph, okay? So please look at photograph number 1 and I'll show it to our audience here.
1. Ooh.
There's photograph number 1.
Is this like the Titanic, only for Canada?
Well, I'll ask you, why do you say that? It's just a ship?
Because first thing I saw was, what's his name? Standing on the bow of it with his arms out.
Yes, the actor. You saw that?
Yeah.
So that tells you something. What? It tells you what that's going to happen.
Well, that they have to have sunk. That people have died on board. Not just one person, though.
Wow. Okay. Well, trying to think. Oh, Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yes.
Okay. Well, you're right. As usual, you're jumping ahead of me, but I'll just say this beauty, this old ship, it's an iron-hulled, I should say, is an iron-hulled single funnel. So you see the single funnel in the middle, 252 passenger a steamer christened the SS Valencia. Now, I'll tell you a little bit about her. This photograph is from 1905, okay, a few months before the big event we're going to discuss today. I'll have you look at photo number 2. Again, another black and white shot of our ship, the Valencia. See if I can get a better angle here. There we go. Okay. So she's a beautiful ship.
She is.
Do you have any sense, you've mentioned already, but do you have a sense of what happens to her?
Well, and it's funny because all those people are on board. I saw them on the first one. I know the first.
What are you talking about? There are no people on that ship.
Yes, there are. On the second picture. But on the first picture,
you saw
there wasn't anyone on it except this image. I would think, I don't know of all 250 people plus Stewarts and stuff went down, but I sort of feel like it went to like something, it either tipped or it got a hole in the hull.
Oh, crap. Okay, well, we're examining today a very tragic event which occurred very close to home. In fact, on the west coast of our beloved Vancouver Island.
Wow.
So you and I know how wild and rugged and isolated and beautiful the west coast of Vancouver Island is, but some of our audience may not. So I'm going to show you a couple of pics of what the west coast looks like in good weather. So have a look at photos 3 and 4 and give me a sense of what you see there in relation to what we're talking about today.
Well, this is this the San Juan, or this is up? This is up island, like towards Ucluelet Sound. Is that it?
We're on the west side near Tofino, Ucluelet. Exactly.
Okay.
Just roughly.
See, I've never been there in the daylight, so but that's what it felt like.
Okay.
Beautiful. It's very. You can see the inlets from there. The rock jutting out, and my computer hates me. It's foggy, but there's rocks all over. So
yeah, it's pretty representative
beautiful.
of the west coast, right? Trees,
yes.
Mountains, rocks, inlets, water, fog. That's pretty well it tells it. And of course, some sandy beaches now and again. Well, yes. In image number 4, we get a shot of a sandy beach, and it's a beautiful day. But of course, we're not talking about a beautiful day.
No.
So we're going to give you an idea that this ship, the Valencia, was steaming from San Francisco, so further south of us, to Seattle around January 20th, 1906.
Wow.
On board were roughly 154 people. And I say roughly because they don't really know exactly how many were there. This included 60 crew and roughly 94 passengers, and some of the passengers were women and children, because it was a passenger steamer. So they were coming from San Francisco to Seattle. Now, the trip was uneventful at the start, so around the 20th of January, but by the 22nd, as the Valencia is approaching the west coast of British Columbia, a storm began to kick in and churned the ocean into this cauldron, massive storm. Sailing and navigation became extremely difficult. So we have to kind of imagine, since our photographs 3 and 4 are showing a nice weather, we have to imagine how dark, scary, windy, noisy it would have been in 1906 to be in the middle of in the ocean and having these apartment block sized waves crashing over top of you. Tearing at the rigging because it's a sailing ship, right?
Yeah.
Tossing passengers into the black, salty, freezing Pacific Ocean. So our ship is doomed, as you said right up front. I'm going to ask you if you can tell me roughly on a map where she might have floundered. You've been amazing on flat Google Maps in the past. So look at number 5. It's a map, Google flat map of the area. We have Tofino at the top left, the Pacific Rim National Park, and down below we have Ucluelet, and even further below we have a place called Cape Beale, and just below Bamfield. So just roughly, that is an area we're going to zero in on. I'm just wondering if you get a sense in that area where this ship might have floundered.
Okay, interesting enough, because the broken group, there it shows like a border around it. So I'm going to say somewhere between the broken group and the deer group, Cape, somewhere in there. Not quite in the Barkley Sound, but it's almost like they came around. There's Ucluelet.
Yep.
I see them passing it. And it's
south. They're coming upward.
They're coming up the other way. So they're going up there.
They're
okay.
Up towards Ucluelet. Yeah.
So I'm looking at from the backwards. So we've got past, I believe we're past Cape Beale, but it's somewhere in there.
Oh, okay. Now, why do you get a sense of that? I mean, we're just talking about green.
Because strangely enough, that one thing, the broken group, it made me think that's where the ship broke. But
Okay, that's the name
it's
of
not,
a group of islands that are there
yeah.
called the Broken Group of Islands. Yeah.
But here's the thing: it didn't actually. It's more than being. I can hear people, so it had to have been there because I can hear people screaming. There's more to this than just going down.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Well, let's go ahead.
I'm going to base it on my daughter tonight.
Okay.
Okay. As a good mother should, I handed my flu, whatever it was, symptoms to my daughter.
Yeah.
The difference is I never got hot or cold flashes. She got hot flashes tonight.
Okay.
And so I'm sort of, okay, I keep hearing someone in my head, a man in particular, besides hearing the down with the that that alarm that goes off, that sound.
Yes.
I keep hearing fire, but I don't know if he means there's a fire or whether it's his way of getting people's attention.
Oh, okay. All right. Good comment. I don't know. We'll have a look at photo number 5. We're zooming in now. So you had mentioned that our area was somewhere from the Broken Group down to Cape Beale. Okay,
Yep.
roughly you're thinking. Now, if you look at our photo number 5, we're zeroing in just below Cape Beale. There's a little bay called Pachina Bay. And if you go back to photo 5, if you see the words Cape Beale and you go directly horizontally across, there's a little bay there. That's exactly where it crashed.
Okay, on mine, I can see Cape Beale and Bamfield. Is it
Just
lower than that?
Yeah, like take a triangle from Bamfield and Cape Beale and drop it down straight, and you'll get to Pachina Bay, that little kind of blue bay there. Okay, that's the location. And if you look at photo 6, we have a real close up of that bay.
Okay, I see. I didn't have it big enough.
Okay, it's definitely hard to see. But somewhere in that area, in Pachina Bay, somewhere, I'm not going to tell you exactly where, this ship went aground on a reef.
But
So,
how could they be that high in a bay?
well, that's the problem with, I guess, these kind of treacherous waters. There's all kinds of under the sea reefs that are hidden. Nowadays, of course, navigation would be much easier with sonar and stuff. But in those days, they just either had to know where they were or not and run into them. Now, the trick is they're here by accident. The captain overshot the San Juan Islands and the entrance to Seattle, well, or was forced to overshoot it by the storm. So he made navigational errors, completely missed where he was supposed to go, and started heading up the outside of the West Coast, okay, where he shouldn't have been. So he's many kilometers off course.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so if you look at number 6, you'll see this bay. It's quite a large bay, although it doesn't look huge on the photograph, but it's a large bay. Can you narrow in just roughly for fun in that bay where that they might have gone aground?
Okay. Is it where the number 6 is, or is it on the bigger side?
It's on the bigger side. That whole center part is the bay.
Okay. There sort of looks like there's a little bit of a peninsula. Okay, you see where the West Coast Trail is?
I do.
Okay. I don't see how they could have got that high.
Okay, but remember, they're in the bay. They're crashing somewhere in the bay. They haven't hit the land.
No, I know. It's like like if you come down from the West Coast Bay, come down, and there's a point there, and it's somewhere in there.
Okay, so here I'm going to show the picture. Sorry, I should have shown. There's picture 5. There's Pachina. Okay. There's your West Coast Trail right there.
Yeah. And now come down.
Come down vertically. Okay.
Let's do that first. Yep. Come down.
Okay.
Okay. So you're either right there or come down a little bit more. It's a little more, little more, little more. There's a little. Oh, there, your thumb's on it.
Right here?
Yeah.
That little point.
It's sort of in that area by the looks of it.
Okay, so when you say by the looks of it, I'm looking at just a flat map with some, lines and a little water area and land area. What do you mean by the looks of it? What are you seeing that I don't see?
Well, there's like an image of a boat.
There's no image of a boat there, Darcy. Come on.
But it looks as though I don't know, obviously he had no idea where he is, because there's no way, one, he could have turned around in this either.
Well, he had no idea where he was.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
no
But
kidding.
this bay is much bigger than you think. Like it's a
Yeah,
large
I
body
know.
of water. Okay. But you are very close to where the ship went aground. I mean, and you probably are in some ways part of it going aground, hit reefs. So it actually supposedly, as far as I know, somewhere in this area here, like that.
Yeah.
So you are,
Yeah, that's about right.
you are incredibly close to what I believe is where she went down.
Okay.
Amazing. Okay. So,
Is it still there by any chance?
and why do you ask that?
Because I sort of saw a skeleton when you went to pull it away, like the skeleton of either the vessel or.
Oh, sorry. I'm going to get to that. So you're saying somewhere in here.
Yeah. It's
You're
like
seeing-
there's something else. Like I think there's a piece of it or something about it that's still there.
Well, you're right. We're going to talk about that later. But in fact, on the beach, on the West Coast Trail, which is the famous West Coast Trail that we all know now, sometimes on that beachy area in that location, some of the bits of iron from the iron hull of the SS Valencia can be seen today.
Wow.
Amazing. Exactly. Like bones, the bones of the ship.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about what happens. So that you see the ship floundering, you see the ship, what's happening to the ship?
Well, it sort of feels like it's tipping. Okay. I don't know if it's actually capsized but something else is going on. Like when you tip something like a glass, water rolls out. If there's still water in it, it's like that.
Okay.
And
Well,
and I think some of these people may have been asleep when it happened.
Well, it was in the evening. It was at nighttime. So yes, they were asleep. They were not well dressed. What happened is she hit a reef, and we've got to imagine this is a horrendous storm going on.
Yeah.
Howling winds, water crashing over. The sound of the water and the waves would have been terrifying. It's pitch dark. It's 1906. So a pretty tough situation. She hits a reef, has a problem with her hull automatically, obviously, starts to take on water. The captain makes a decision that he thinks she's going to be ripped to smithereens by the waves if she gets crashed up and back against these reefs. So he orders his men to have her sail up higher onto the reef. So she's probably on that little bit of a slant look that you're describing, just naturally, to sort of have her locked on there and protected, theoretically, from the waves, hoping that there will be time for people to come and rescue them. So there's as I said, 152 people on board. The storm rages for a long time, Darcy. Have you had a sense of how long it might rage, or have you got a sense of what's going on here?
Well, I'm going to say, having experienced BC weather numerous times, especially on the coast now, that wind can be like over 120
kilometers. Yeah.
Kilometers. Yeah. And so I sort of feel like the vessel's like a teeter-totter, up, down, over, like this. Like it just feels like it's being battered all around. So unless, anything could have happened. The oil could have caught fire. The kitchen, especially if anyone was cooking. I really feel, and it's weird because I don't think the lifeboats were sufficient enough to get them out of there either. So they must have lost a few.
Let's talk about lifeboats, because they had 7 lifeboats. All 7 were lowered during this time frame, and I'm going to let you know that the storm raged for 2 full days and nights. So these people were trapped on board of this disintegrating ship. at night and then during the day with this horrendous storm going on. It's hard to even envision that for 2 days, people, children, women, men are on this ship, some of them being lowered into life drafts to get off. Some of them they're not getting off. When the lifeboats were lowered, they all were lowered, but most of them were dashed almost instantly into the rocks and through the storm, and the people were thrown capsized into the ocean and died. So that wasn't very successful. A few people made it to land, but that wasn't very helpful because we're talking 1906. What way do they communicate for help?
Yeah.
There's no lighthouse at the time. There's nobody there. The only way to get to any kind of civilization is to take the telegraph trail, because that was their method of communications in those days. So there was a trail hacked through the forest pretty roughly many years ago to put in the telegraph. And so that was the only path they could take, except for along the beach, to try and see if they can locate somebody for help. Fortunately, the ship itself was able to get some SOS alerts off when it was crashing. So there were recovery efforts. But we got to remember, this is an uninhabited part of the West Coast. It probably still is in many ways. So what sort of possible recovery efforts do you think went through? Can you get a sense of that?
Oh, I don't think recovery would, maybe for bodies or something afterwards, because given the time frame, the weather conditions, as you put, their clothing being soaked to the bone, I'm not feeling that there was a huge rescue mission right away, because all that would have happened is, I can hear a foghorn, but all that would have happened was the rescuers would have gone in and got caught up in that storm as well. So really, what good was it going to be to rescue people?
Okay, so you could kind of, are you actually sort of seeing that? Or
Yeah,
are you...
I feel nauseous because I feel like I'm being rocked back and forth, and like I can feel the fog going. I can smell, the fog when it's really thick here, and I can smell it. I from the very beginning, I've heard people screaming before you even started it. I can hear people, and so this was after Christmas, right?
Just January 22nd.
Okay, and the reason I'm saying it is because someone was still playing Christmas carols earlier this evening in my head, and I actually asked my daughter. I said, "Can you hear the Christmas carol?" And she went, "No." So I think in some aspects, people were even headed to have Christmas from this.
Okay. Well, you are dead right about the rescue efforts. There were ships that tried to come. Imagine, sailing. We're not talking power ships, sailing out into this storm to try and rescue this people off this vessel. And they came to the same conclusion you came to. They couldn't get any closer. They couldn't rescue because they would have been dashed upon the rocks themselves. So they had to go away. So I'm trying to imagine there were dozens of people hanging on to bits of that ship, children and women, some of them probably not wearing a lot of good clothing after how many hours of being battered by this storm, hanging on. Their hopes would have been so raised to such heights when they saw these rescue vessels coming into their view. And then imagine how dashed and horrendous they must have felt and like lost and forgotten when they sailed away without being of any help at all.
So I couldn't imagine. Well, I can, but just that feeling of just, well, you use the word desertion, and to know that that's it. This is your last hope. You're either an act of God is going to keep you alive because you're meant to be alive, or you're going to die at sea.
Are you hearing people specifically in relationship to this terror?
I can hear that. I literally can hear women and men screaming. The children are sort of catatonic. And I can hear the captain, screaming. And it's weird because I keep hearing scream fire.
Okay, well, I don't know about the fire, but I think you named two possible reasons why fire would be involved. Number one,
Yeah.
it could have been fire, and number two, that might be a way to get people to respond. I mean, it's a
Yes.
natural. We all know to panic, not to try not to panic, but we all know to panic when someone shouts fire. That's when you got to start moving. So that might be
But,
why you're hearing that.
but I don't see, that the effort that would be put into battening things down. I think it became all hands for yourself here. That you're relying on yourself.
Yeah, I think fairly quickly they were overrun by water, and I think
Yeah.
they were, you know, made tremendous efforts to get the lifeboats down, and then have them all dashed into the rocks. I mean, the feeling of desolation of just being abandoned must have been horrendous. Like
Yeah.
there's no hope left at all, as you say. There's going to be no hope. You're going down.
Well, as we're talking, I see a little blonde girl in a velvet jacket, blue jacket, white collar. She's got a little doll in her hand, and all I see is the doll floating.
Oh, you're kidding.
Nope.
Wow. Wow, that's very graphic.
Yeah, it's
Well,
so I'm gonna see.
Yeah, I can't imagine what those survivors must, or those who were still surviving at this time were experiencing. In fact, one actual person who did survive, a few did survive, about 37, wrote later that they remembered the screams of the women and children mingled in an awful chorus with the shrieking of the wind and the dash of the rain and the roar of the breaking waves.
Wow.
And it must have been a horrendously awful experience.
Yeah.
I can't imagine it. Well, I'd like you to read the highlighted text. Where I had photo number 7. Okay, look at photo number 7. Sorry, we sort of skipped past that one. This is actually the ship itself. This is actually a real photograph of the ship itself. I think after the actual crashing. So it's in the water there in distress.
Yeah.
Can you
Look
get a
at
sense
it.
of that?
That's funny because see all that mist, that's what I'm smelling.
Are you?
Yeah.
See it in that photograph. It's very, I should show it up here. Sorry, I keep forgetting. Okay, here's my photo 7. There's the ship.
Yep.
Isn't that, or parts of the ship?
And yeah, because I was going to say, now that ship looks really small compared to the first one you showed us.
Doesn't it just? I mean, it's just barely poking out of the water. Not even all of it. And as you say, you can see the mist, and I think that might be the waves breaking onto the rocks behind them. So it shows you how rough that terrain or that water area is. Yeah, horrendous. God. Okay. Well, have a look at photo number 8, and could you read for me the red highlighted sections and tell us if you can get anything beyond what it's being said in that newspaper clipping, and I'll put it up here.
Okay, so this dated January 24th, 1906. Valencia pounded to pieces. All left on board are lost. Only 15 escaped. Rescue steamers were compelled to stand by outside the dangerous reefs through the long dark hours of night, unable to render any assistance. Wow, I feel like the rescuers are crying.
Oh,
like,
wow. Really?
How devastating it must have been for them as well not to be able to render service.
I can't imagine. I mean, they made the effort to come out, as I said, in the middle during the storm to try to help people. And of course, they would be wanting to help the women and the children in particular, and they couldn't do anything. So you could hear that. You could feel that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you can often glean a lot from inanimate objects, which I find, of course, one of the many remarkable talents you have. I'd like to show you something in photo number 9. It's a copper lantern rescued from the Valencia. It's now in the museum, a British Columbia Museum, Maritime Museum. So there's our little lantern.
Yeah, it wouldn't have done much for that night.
Can you imagine? This is how they would have been lighting the ship with this. It's probably 8 inches high or something.
Yeah.
Not much light.
And I feel like I am trying to move it around. I see a man's hand. He's got a ring on. He's one of those pea jackets with a white cuff hanging out. Looks like he's got the initials JL on it, on a what are they called? Cufflinks. And I feel that this wouldn't have aided anyone.
No, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But it's actually one of the lanterns from the actual ship. So
Wow.
People have touched that lantern. Okay. Well, unbelievably. Go ahead.
So people are finding, or they see the ghost ship and hear people crying.
Why do you say that, you devil?
Because of that. Because of the lantern.
What does the lantern tell you? How does the lantern tell you anything about a ghost ship?
Because it's like, you remember the foghorn I could hear earlier? Well, that's what this represents to me, is the foghorn of warning people to stay away. And the lantern is, the lantern is part of whatever people are seeing out there.
And so you're thinking people are seeing things out there?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, cool. Okay, we'll hold that because we'll get there very quickly. My goodness. All right. Well, I want to ask you, out of the survivors, were there any women and children?
I feel like there should be at least 2 women and maybe 1 child.
Okay, well, supposedly there were none.
Really? I feel like there should have been.
Okay, well, that's interesting. Statistically, there were none. There were 37 men who were fortunate enough to survive. And we have an image of some of these survivors. So let's look at photo number 10, Darcy. This is an image of 8 survivors from the Valencia. A few weeks later.
Mm-hmm.
They look pretty stalwart to me.
Yeah, they don't look like it fazed them.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. They don't look at all fazed by what they must have been through. But I wondered if you could get anything from them.
Well, 1 person in particular. Well, maybe 2. Okay, the man, 1, 2, the third from where the museum word is. There's the guy in the back who's leaned forward by the looks of it.
This guy
straight up. No, that one.
Yeah,
with your finger.
With the parted hair.
Yes, he looks like something has triggered his, call it, darker side to life. Okay, like he may have gone on and been a bit of a thrill seeker to see if he could cheat death again. The one next to him in the back, he seems very, what's the word I want, reserved.
Yeah.
The rest, they wear it, but they don't wear the nightmare like that first one does.
Oh, okay.
Okay, they wear it, they remember it, but I'm not seeing the nightmare.
Oh, okay, because I'm just looking at them thinking they just look like pretty solid looking, serious gentlemen, and that's about all I get out of it. Okay, cool. Well, now we're going to come to the paranormal stuff that's related to this, which you've already jumped ahead on. So there have been many otherworldly occurrences attributed to this ship. Some of them really, really early on, and some of them a little bit later. So what do you see? What can you tell us about them? Any kind of things that you think have been going on supernatural wise?
Okay. Well, I would be surprised if no one saw the vessel. I can see people in the water. The lantern stands out, the distress signal. Oh, look at that. And there's a whole bunch of people still floating. So they were able to retrieve some of the bodies, but not all, correct?
I would imagine so. I don't have the details, but I think so. But when you say, oh, look at that, what are you looking at?
It was this image of, it's really bad, but a stream of bodies.
A stream of bodies. You're just seeing this in the air. You're not seeing it on a screen here.
No, I'm looking at you.
Yeah.
It's this stream.
Frig. That's awful. Okay. What else might you see?
I keep seeing the like the hull or the actual ship itself, but it's almost as though it's weird because it doesn't feel like it's broken. You know, like what's that old tale about the Dutch?
Oh, the Flying Dutchman.
Yeah, that's sort of what I'm feeling.
So the tale of the Flying Dutchman is this guy who is he's a haunted paranormal he's a specter, right? He doesn't
Yeah.
exist anymore, yet he sails the seas. His ship is visible. He's visible on the ship. That's my understanding of the sort of the tale. So you're seeing what, the real ship itself sailing? Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, but I can hear it's almost the way I see it, it's like a warning to other people. Like if you're getting close to that rocky area, it's almost like the ship materializes to try to get you away from it.
Okay, well that's really cool because that's exactly one of the supernatural events that occurs with this ship. Sailors, fishermen, people on the sea have said for years, decades now, obviously, that this ship has been seen as a warning. And they see it, they look for it, and it's gone. They've seen it actually go by them, on the ocean in a sort of fog bank. Of course, it would be in the fog bank type of thing. But when they're checking for it, they cannot find it. But it's thought of as a warning. Absolute, an absolute warning. Okay. Well, I'm going to let you look at photo number 11, which is a black and white shot, again, of the ship, even further down in the water, even further broken up. Poor thing.
Yeah.
Is.
So that's the rock I'm going to take at bank that you can see there.
I think so. I think all those little broken bits on the water, little black bits on the water, I don't know what they are. If they're bits of rock, if they're bits of people, if they're bits of ships, I don't know.
Okay.
But behind it is, of course, the actual banks of the Pachina Bay and the land. And I should have said earlier, we're talking 100 yards or more, not much more than 100 yards from when the ship hit the reef to the land. It was that close.
Yeah.
And they get to it.
But how are they going to get anywhere on the land anyways? Look how rocky it is.
Exactly. That's what I mean by, what do you do if you get on the land? Where do you
go? But okay, you see to the left of the picture, like my left because I'm looking at it.
Okay.
All right. So move the picture over right there. Okay. Oh no, a little more. So in this area here where the wave is in the side, you can see the group of people standing there that have died. They're there, and that's where I saw the wave of bodies. So they must have gone to shore eventually, or at least their spirit has gone to shore.
You're saying in this kind of fuzzy black and white shot, in this area, you're seeing a group of people.
Yes.
I'm just sort of seeing black and white smudge.
I know, but it's like I can see the arms reaching out and everything, and you can see the men and the women, children.
Oh, wow. How many would you say?
Oh, there's a good probably 75 people standing there, still waiting.
Wow.
So it makes me wonder if their family ever got to claim them.
I doubt it. I doubt most bodies were ever located.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I doubt it. I mean, they were just, ruined. Who would go out there and find them?
I know.
Should say, get here. It's like we're talking really seriously difficult terrain. Not to mention the ocean.
Yep.
Okay. Well, then it's pretty horrendous scene, isn't it? I mean, imagine that.
Yes, it is.
They practically touch the land, but they can't get there.
You probably still. Sorry. You probably still get there today if you wanted to. Okay, I'm going to ask them to release themselves and move on to where they should be.
Okay, go for it.
I am.
Good.
Because they don't need to stand there anymore.
Okay, so that picture's just a couple of weeks after it happened, so there's still parts of the ship being shown.
Okay, that would explain it.
So the visibility of the ship isn't the only paranormal event. The actual the rescuers on their ships approaching, and we see the photograph of kind of what they saw, which is the ship practically under the ground, very little under the water, sorry, very little exposed above water. They saw something quite remarkable, though. What did they see?
I want to say it feels like there's a person standing there. Okay. I also get a light. Like
Okay.
I definitely get a light. But the other piece, I see a bright white light.
Okay. That I know nothing about, but that's a very cool image. What has been said is that it was heard, the ship was seen as a proper ship.
Yeah.
Even though it was broken to pieces, they were seeing an image of the ship as a proper ship with some of the women and children and others, I guess men, singing. But the women were singing a lullaby as the ship's going down. This is the image they're seeing, a ship going down, even though the ship had already been crashed and blasted and into pieces and all the people were pretty well gone. This is the image that the rescuers saw of the ship kind of going down.
Well, I know I've seen that ship, so yeah, I can see that.
Wow.
And I heard the Christmas carol earlier, which could have also been a lullaby. The music seemed to be something that calmed us.
Yeah, they say that they sang on the Titanic. I don't know if that's really true.
Oh, did
but
they?
Great romantic idea. The band played on. That's the theory. And
Okay.
Okay. Well, a few more paranormal things continue to happen about this ship. It's quite amazing. About 6 months after the Valencia calamity, several natives were exploring the sea caves in that area. And as you can see from this photograph and the other ones that we have, imagine these are all little areas where you could have caves, right?
Yes.
Little bits where the water could go through or that might be able to walk onto. Who knows? Hard to get at depending on the tide levels. So a cave that wasn't normally seen was, for whatever reason, visible. The tide, the light, the wind. Suddenly they were able to peer into this cave, which they hadn't normally seen, and it's blocked by a big stone. So you can't really get into it, but they could look into the cave. What did they see? Something they never forgot.
Are we talking people?
We're talking people, yes.
Okay.
We're also talking something else.
I would say, to me, it's a group of people, not just one. And I'd like to think that they could have been women and children in there. Okay. But it definitely feels like a group of people standing together.
Okay, well, what they say they saw, you're close. What they say they saw was one of the lifeboats trapped in the cave with 8 skeletons inside it. So 6 months since the accident, the tragedy, somehow that lifeboat got pushed into this cave over the big rock during the storm, and then they were trapped inside. They couldn't get out. This is the idea. I don't know if that's true. I mean, I can't imagine that they'd all be lying about in the lifeboat. They would have gotten out of the lifeboat perhaps or tried to get out of the cave, but this is the romantic vision that they supposedly saw.
Yeah.
Do you think
that's... I don't know about the lifeboat, but I definitely see the people.
Wow. Okay. Cool. Okay. There's one more that I think will just totally blow your mind because it blew mine. So one thing happens is they see the ship, as you have mentioned, sailors see the ship at sea, over time, and nasty nights, the ghost ship appears, right? So it's kind of like our Flying Dutchman, right?
Yeah.
So it's been seen, the ship's been seen with, ghostly figures on it. It's been seen without ghostly figures on it. Lifeboats have been seen adrift with ghostly figures on them. They've been searched for, and of course, they don't exist, right? So that's pretty scary that this sort of continued to happen, and that the sailors, the fishermen, took it so seriously that they went to find the boat. They turned their direction into finding that boat as a rescue, and there was nothing to be found. And they all claimed, we saw it, we saw it, we saw it. Okay. So that's something that's been continually going on. And as you said, the tale over the last, decades, it's become a cautionary tale now.
Yeah.
About, trouble at sea, dangers at sea. So you nailed that early on. I'm going to put you for another last. Something really neat happened, and I'm going to let you look at image number 12. I'm going to tell you, you don't really understand what it is, but it's a piece of metal, and it's got a word inscribed on it, and it's at the BCV Museum. And I'm going to show it to you in the audience. Okay, there it is.
It almost looks like the ship too, doesn't it? The way they cut the metal.
It does. So this is a nameplate, Darcy, from a lifeboat from the Valencia, based on the name. Do you get anything from that object?
Can I ask, was this found on shore or floating? You shouldn't float because it looks like metal.
I couldn't tell you the answer. I think it might have been found as a piece of wood or something, the bit of the boat, but I can't tell you for sure.
Well, for me, what it's trying to do is tell people it lives on.
Yeah.
Okay. The name itself, it lives on no matter how many times people may visualize it. There it is right there. But I feel that it's important that this, with its name on it, stuck when nothing else did.
Well, that's cool. You said that, and I've made a mistake. This is very, very cool. You're right. This nameplate was found because something appeared on the ocean and was legitimately found 27 years after the accident.
Wow.
What it was?
Okay, so was it a lifeboat or part of a lifeboat? Since you mentioned lifeboat.
It was lifeboat number 5 with this nameplate on it. Was found in perfect condition 27 years later, floating on the West Coast on the Pacific Ocean.
Wow.
Can you believe that?
And no one was in it.
No one was in it. Where had it been for 27 years?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just boggles the mind. It's not broken to bits. It's not crashed up on the shore. It's not been beached anywhere. It's found floating calmly by some sailors. I'm astounded by it.
That's crazy.
So, I liked your idea that the name stays on. The name carries on.
Yeah.
The Valencia lives still.
Yeah.
And that nameplate is the thing that triggers that, is the thing that nails that to the wall, literally. It was nailed to the lifeboat. It's a testament to those people, I believe, and that ship, and that horrendous.
Absolutely.
So I think that's pretty remarkable. Anything else you can think of that went on regarding the ship? We're pretty well coming to the end here.
I'm pretty sure we caught it. What I really feel is that I'm surprised they don't hold a memorial service for the people.
That's a good point. And they probably did. I don't know that they, on the 100th anniversary, because we had the 100th anniversary in 2006. I don't know that anything was done. It would be nice. Maybe the families might do that. I don't know. That's a good point, because it is representative of, I think at the time, it was the largest disaster in our West Coast history. I think now it's the 3rd largest disaster. So it's a pretty significant event, and a lot of people lost their lives.
Absolutely.
It's hard to imagine anything positive came out of this, but in fact, a couple of things did, Darcy. Number one, in 1907, a year later, a lighthouse was built for Pachina Bay.
Okay.
So that would have helped, and does help, sailors in future. And number two, the old telegraph trail that some of the survivors managed to find and stumble along, hoping to find help, but I don't think they ever found help. But that trail has turned into the West Coast Trail. The government decided that they needed to have a way of communication and a way of people of getting from one place to another to get some communications. And
Yeah.
so they put money into building the proper West Coast Trail in that
Wow.
area. And now we have that spectacular West Coast Trail, of course, a large trail. So we kind of owe that to the crashing, terrible tragedy, the sinking of the Valencia. So we're all
Wow.
benefiting,
We are.
which is kind of nice, but still pretty sad.
It is to have so many people lose their life, but something did come out of it, like you said.
Yeah, I just find I try to imagine myself on a stranded ship in the middle of a storm that's lasting 2 days, 48 hours, 2 nights. I'm hanging on. I'm wet. I'm terrified. I'm tasting salt. I can't see or hear anymore. And it just must have been the thought of just that desolation and that abandonment. Like you just think it must have been horrendous. I can't even go there in my mind. I'm just wondering, can you?
Well, I can, but it's like you have to segregate yourself from what has transpired, because otherwise you can get so sucked into it that you could become a victim yourself. Because the noise, like the screaming, as you put it, the waves and everything, it's not something you're ever going to forget. And those people who have survived it will remember it, and those who didn't survive it will remember it. Will be part of who they are.
Yes, exactly. Well, you said you saw people on the shore in Pachina Bay, and that you had encouraged them or allowed them to move on. What kind of, what happens with people who've been killed in such horrendous circumstances? What happens to those people, those spirits?
Well, depending on who you talk to, a lot of people will say that when you're under that extreme stress of dying, you leave your essence there because there's that sudden shock of what's happening. But because these people sort of had 48 hours to sort of figure out they're not going to make it to shore, a lot of them probably made peace with the idea. But there's still the actual drowning, the actual freezing to death, that people are going to leave something of themselves behind.
Do you think if you went to Pachina Bay, you would have a sense?
Oh, yeah. But I don't have to go there to see it. You could see it. Well, I could see it.
Yeah, you can see it. Okay. The people that you saw on shore, now that you've had your opportunity to communicate with them, do you still feel they're there?
Well, there's still a few people there not willing to let go, with the belief that they're still going to be rescued.
Really?
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
But they'll come to terms with it.
This is like 100+ years later.
Yeah. Sometimes we hold on to our hopes.
For a long time. Well, I guess for them, it's eternity. Is that right? I mean, there's nothing coming in the future. They're just forever, ever, ever until they make that decision. And will they make it on their own?
They may not. It depends again on the soul. I'll do my prayers tonight and ask that they move forward, because it's time to let go.
Right.
But it's still up to them.
Okay. Wow. Well, that's a sad tale. Absolutely a sad tale. But thank you. You nailed a lot of things there right up front. You knew it was a ghost ship. You had the Flying Dutchman idea. You had the crying and screaming of people. You knew it was going to be a disaster ship because you talked about the Titanic from day one. Now I know we're looking at a ship, so the presumption is perhaps a ship as an idea would crash. But still, I think you were very, very good tonight to tune into a lot of stuff.
Right. But then we have another ship that sort of iced over in the Arctic.
Oh, you're talking about Franklin.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. The Erebus and the, I can't remember the name of them. Yes,
Yeah.
the Franklin expedition of the Arctic, they were iced over, and both ships have now been found using sonar and oceanography or whatever. Just recently, the Canadian government, I think, put the money into having them found, and they are located way at the top of our beautiful land in the ocean, but in very high up in. I don't know how they actually found them, but they tracked where their trip was and where they possibly could have sailed or been pushed by the ice at the time, because of course they were locked in, as you say. But over time they were broken up and sank. So yeah, but they only had, I don't know, maybe 25 men on board, something like that.
Yeah.
Not nearly the number of passengers, but still an amazing event. Well, an effort to come and try and find the Northwest Passage. Yeah. Maybe we'll have to examine them sometime.
Yes.
That'd be cool. Yeah, okay, we'll put that down. Do you think there's any hauntings with
Well, we'll never know until we look.
We'll never know until we look, exactly. Until we crack open that ship at that time. Okay, well, thanks so much. This has been a great fun. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I've enjoyed this.
Me too.
Okay.
Talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to Seeing Dead People, where goosebumps are guaranteed. We would love to hear from you with questions for Darcy about her psychic process or suggestions for other mystifying situations you would like us to investigate. Please shoot us an email to info@radiosydney.ca with Seeing Dead People in the subject line. New episodes air on our website, radiosydney.ca, on the first Saturday of every month. Episodes repeat Saturday nights at 8 p.m. and Sunday mornings at 10 a.m., both Pacific time. All episodes are available as downloadable podcasts at our website or on our YouTube channel, Nicola Furlong Mysteries. I'm Dorian Mortis, weirdly keen on seeing dead people.
It's amazing.
This has been a presentation of Radio Sydney.